Good afternoon. My name is Joseph Lloyd and I source cars for people on a professional basis. Although most of the cars I source are between £1,000 and £5,000, very often I've been asked to show something a little bit cheaper on the channel, and so I came up with No Budget Reviews, the series where we look at cars that you can buy in good condition with an MOT for under £1,000 and you can enjoy driving. We don't film this in an expensive manner, we don't use separate microphones, we don't use dual head tripods, we don't even use a DSLR, but we do have a lot of fun. Well viewers, seems I've come to a decision on the channel. I think we should start talking about diesel cars. The reason for that is because recently the Fuel Power channel did a review of a diesel Vauxhall Astra H Estate, and here is a diesel Vauxhall Astra Estate. This is a Mark V Astra, also known as the Astra H. It's actually not a standard model at all. It was originally in use by the Surrey Fire Service. You can kind of see where the decals have been taken off, which it had until quite recently. A fan of a certain Welsh-based YouTube channel and my own one offered this to me for review. And having seen the Fuel Power video, I decided to accept. So it's a very late Astra H Estate. These were made from 2004 to 2010. A lot of books will sort of say, and resources will say, that they only made these until 2009. That's not true. There were plenty of Astra H's made into 2010, like the one that you would have seen on the channel in 2019. That actually belongs to my father-in-law, which he still has. I myself have owned an Astra H, Astra H Twin Top 1.8, which I owned in 2010, so I'm quite familiar with these cars. The boot on this car is absolutely huge. You've even got this kind of, I suppose, a sort of bulkhead here, which has been put in by the fire service. This is actually a special order car. The specification is unique to the ones made for applications like the fire service. So we've actually got a full-size spare wheel in here, which is an alloy spare. That wasn't at all a given in Astra H's at all. Some of them didn't come with one, I don't think. We've got an original first aid kit, Opel Vauxhall one, car from back in the day when General Motors owned Opel and Vauxhall. We've also got a very interesting load blind here, which she's got a very nice action to it. This car feels very Germanic. I think this would have been made up at Ellesmere Port, but obviously many countries of the world, they know Opel as a German brand, and this feels actually very Germanic, both in terms of the way it looks and also in terms of the way that it feels. Car's only done quite low mileage, but obviously during its fire service career it has picked up one or two bits of damage and things, but yeah, it's still very usable, still very much able to pick one of these up for No Budget Reviews money, of course. Very strange specification. I say alloy wheels, which are from a pre-facelift Astra H, and an interior that is off a design model. Also, we've got these black plastic door handles off for life trim, I think these were. Lots and lots of space in here. There's no problem getting in and out. Electric windows as well. It's very, very, very unusual. I think these are called specials, actually, if you look at the logbooks. We've got little bits where they would have had equipment in there as well. Obviously converted, I think at Millbrook, actually, these were done. Got bits of, you know, quite nice, I think, leather, artificial leather there. Seats quite comfortable, but no rear armrest for the fire service colleagues. Nice big door bins, though, to put all your bits in. And it actually feels quite good. You've got, look, soft touch rear door tops in here, which you know, Not even the Golfs today get those, I don't think. So it feels actually quite well made. The biggest problem with these, of course, is always with depreciation rather than actually what they were. And also the styling's not necessarily to everyone's taste. The Astra J, which came in 2009, although overlapped with the Astra H for a while, that had a much more sort of modern looking design. Yeah, you can see where the decals have been taken off quite obviously actually on the door. So we've got electric mirrors in this car. We've got not automatic lights or wipers, but my father-in-law's car does have. It has automatic lights for a 1.4, which is unusual. Also very unusual in this is the fact that the information display, which would normally be up here, is actually put down there, which is very, very confusing. So that's actually an aftermarket sat-nav system that's been put in there, and someone's, taken the dash out and fiddled with it. Obviously, when the car was in use as a fire service vehicle. We've got 2 mounts in there, because if I put the camera there, you wouldn't be able to see me particularly, so I've put my own mount in there as well. Reach and brake adjustment on the steering, which is good. And oh, my old foes, the one-touch wiper and indicator stalks. I don't like those, viewers. I don't like those at all, I'm afraid. Also, we don't have a temperature gauge in this car. You can sort of configure it so it comes up with the engine temperature down here, but as standard they don't come with that, which is annoying. We can look in there to see that the cigarette lighter is gone with 12-volt socket. The controls for heating ventilation, some people say these are really, really confusing. I've never found that myself. I think, modern touchscreens that have heating and ventilation built in are more confusing. And look at the size of these buttons. It's really easy to sort of change stations and put it on a CD player and things like that. Some of these actually came with an aux in. I don't know whether this one has one. Who knows? It might do. Underneath all the fire service stuff. Electric mirrors, 4 electric windows. Again, the materials do feel good. It's a nice feeling dash top, a soft touch actually. Even got a sort of phone kit in here with a microphone there. We don't have a rear courtesy light, which is strange, very weird. The vents open in a really sort of peculiar sort of way. They open like this, which I've always found a bit weird on these. Not much else to say. There's no sport button on this, which some of the models got, which actually had a very sort of early, or rather cheap form of dynamic chassis control. You put the sport button, it wasn't just a throttle response and the steering weight, because all models have electric steering. It actually did alter the damper slightly, although not very much, because the Astra H twin top I had a sport button, and it didn't do an awful lot, really. I couldn't feel the dampers being different or anything. Let's see if me documents might go in here. Oh, Frank Sinatra, excellent. Bit of Frank Sinatra. Oh, well, there's loads of room for stuff like that, and got pen holders and all kinds of exciting things, and massive door bins. Very, very practical car, this. Really practical. You can see why the fire service obviously loved it and kept it for a long time. I've just realised, viewers, I'm going to have to go and look at something we don't normally talk about. Cover your ears. Before I do that, though, just notice that this gearbox is really unusual. It's got reverse in the opposite position to most Vauxhall gearboxes of this era. That's interesting. Right, well, let's take a look and hope nobody's looking. So here we have the good old 1.7 Circle L forbidden fuel engine. I don't think it was called the Circle L by this stage, actually. It's just a name that I tend to call them. They were called something else by 2010 when this car was made, and they are not Euro 6 compliant. So you cannot take this into the ultra emission zone. You cannot take any 1.7 formerly Circle L, now Ecotec engine into the ultra emission zone, as I found out when I had to sell my car with this engine because the Mayor of London introduced it. That's nice of him, isn't it? Anyway, yes, classic Vauxhall Opel header tank here. which sits right on top of the ABS pump, which I've always thought was a really stupid place. If you have any coolant leaks, you could short out your ABS pump. When too much flow goes in there, which is odd. I can't remember now what the difference is between the headlamps on the pre and post facelift cars, but this is definitely a facelift one. But the differences are quite minor. Yeah, not a lot else to say, I'm afraid, viewers. Let's go for a drive. Viewers, this car has an engine. Yeah, it's got an engine. Let's talk about the petrol models, shall we, first of all. I was really intrigued to see, when I did the research on this car, that these were available with the 1.4 Family Zero engine, which generates, I think, either 89 or 99 horsepower, depending on model year. Now, I think in the Astra H Estate, like this one, it was only available with the 89 horsepower. And I think they discontinued it in this car after a while because, yeah, it wouldn't really be able to carry the Estate particularly well. The main engines you'll probably find with this car, this one aside, would be the 1.6 or 1.8 Family 1 units. Now, they date back a really long time. They date back to the launch of the original Astra in 1980. And actually, the Cadets came out even before that. So it's a very long-lived engine. The variant that's normally in these has a very unusual kind of quirk in that the cam belt tensioner is actually the water pump. So you need to make sure that you change that cam belt within the specified intervals. Otherwise you have problems. You can blow the head gasket, things like that. Also, the 1.6 and 1.8 engines do suffer from the thermostat housing leaking, and I actually have had a car where that's happened to it before. It's had both those problems. The 1.6 generated 103 horsepower, and then after, I think, the facelift, which would have been about 2007, it generated 115 horsepower. I think that's when it changed. It could have been before that, actually. 1.8 generated 125 horsepower, then later 138 horsepower. The car originally actually had a very powerful range of top-of-the-line engines. It actually had a couple of 2 litres. The first of those was a 170 horsepower engine. That was actually replaced with the facelift by a 1.6 turbo, which generated 180 horsepower. And then if you really wanted to go a bit crazy, you could get a 2 litre with 197 horsepower. This is all within the Estate, by the way, but it's not even talking about the other myriad variants of the Astra H or Mark V. And of course, there were some other models available. Just looking around to see if anybody recognises me in this car. If they don't, well, we might be safe to talk about these other models. Yes, there were other models with other engines. There's a 1.3 with 90 horsepower. That was an engine co-developed with Fiat. There was this 1.7. Now, this actually generated either 80, 100 or 110 horsepower. It's a 1.7 ex-Isuzu called the Circle L engine. This is a 100 horsepower version. I'm surprised it's actually not the 110, given this is a really late build car, it's 2010. That had things like a particulate filter and I think stop-start and things like that. There were also some 1.9s available. Again, a co-development with Fiat. That engine generated like 120 or 150 horsepower. There are actually 3 different versions of that engine. I don't know what difference as well. Some were 8 valve and some were 16 valve and whatever, but most of them seem to generate 120. There was one with 150, which I think you can tune crazily as well. Oh dear. Oh viewers, we've had a problem. I've just broken my own rules. Oh dear. Whoops. Bear in mind this car was owned by the fire service, and it's been well maintained for most of its life. It's only done 56,000 miles. It does feel a bit rattly, and I'm not just talking about the engine. Suspension's a bit rattly. Gearbox is really weird. It's not got reverse in a normal pattern at all. It's sort of down to the right. I think this will have a pretty different gearbox in it from the petrol models that I've driven so far, which is interesting. You could get a 6-speed manual in the I think 1.6 turbo and the 2-litre models. You could also get an auto, which was on the 1.6 and 1.8 models. The trim levels available are sort of myriad. This isn't actually even a trim level, this one. It's like a special, which is designed by the fire service and things like that. So they've got things like the Elite, the Life, the Design, the SXI, the SRI. Got the Active and the Life. I think that's most of them. I will just double check to see I've mentioned all of them. The Life is quite sparse over the Active. This is really much a Life, but it's got an interior from the Design, and it's got alloy wheels from a higher end pre-facelift car. So I'm really confused about things, viewers. Yes, generally, why am I here? What are the big questions of life? We just don't know. Lloyd Vehicle Consulting stickers, t-shirts and mugs are available by clicking the link to the Google form in the video description below. I mean, the engine's got a fair bit of torque to it. It's very noisy and clattery. That's not a surprise. Steering is very light. I don't like the steering wheel without the leather on it, but you know, this is a sort of supposedly like an industrial spec car, I think is the term I'd use for that, and we don't get those niceties. Ride seems okay. Yeah, steering's a little bit too light, it's not too bad. There's a good sort of solid chunky feeling to the controls, but I hate these one-touch indicators, viewers. I absolutely hate them. Actually, these cars aren't too bad for rust. They don't tend to rust particularly badly, which is good. The Astra Gs did, to an extent. Bigger problem are things like electrical issues and suspension issues and things like that that are common to these. Right, I think we're going to have to bring this to an end, aren't we, viewers? Let's go through these trim levels again, viewers. I'm not sure I got them right the first time. Expression, Elite, Active, Club, Design, Energy, Life, SRI, SXI. This one, of course, well, it's a special one. We don't know, just a special. These Astras were actually built in Belgium, Brazil, Egypt, Germany, Russia, Poland and the UK. They actually sold these as a Holden as well, Holden Astra. Didn't do very well in Australia. Might have been one of the reasons why the Holden brand was discontinued a few years ago. They didn't do well. I think they were a bit expensive or something. So, should you consider a Vauxhall Astra H Estate with your hard-earned budget of up to £1,000? Well, if you're from the Fuel Power channel, then I think so. If you're from my channel, this particular one, with its clattery old engine, yes! Happy April Fool's Day!